My name is Bethany, I'm 29 years old, and I thought I'd escaped my toxic family for good. That morning started like any other until I checked my banking app and saw my entire $50,000 savings account had been drained to zero. Then I heard the pounding on my apartment door. My parents stood there with moving trucks behind them, and my mother's words made my blood run cold. Pack up. Our family is running dry. This is an order. But the real shock came when I realized they'd already sold my apartment. Before we dive into this incredible story of family betrayal and ultimate triumph, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. If you've ever dealt with controlling family members or financial manipulation, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of survival and justice. What would you do if your own parents tried to sell you like property? Let's find out what happened when I discovered just how far my family would go for money. I need to give you some background to understand how I ended up in this nightmare. I grew up in small-town Michigan, in a family that ran Morrison's Hardware for 3 generations. My parents, Robert and Gloria Morrison, ruled our household with an iron fist, always preaching about family duty and legacy. I was the youngest of 3 children, and I watched them destroy my siblings' dreams one by one. My brother Daniel was forced to quit medical school when he was just 2 years away from becoming a doctor. My parents claimed the family business needed him, but really they wanted access to his student loan money. My sister Melanie had dreams of becoming an artist, but they guilt her into marrying Walter Cromwell, a man 20 years older who they said could save the family business. She never touched a paintbrush again after her wedding day. I escaped to New York at 18 with a scholarship to study finance. For 11 years, I built my life carefully, becoming a successful financial analyst at a major investment firm. I had a beautiful apartment in Manhattan, a growing savings account, and most importantly, distance from my family. I sent money home occasionally, thinking I was helping with the business, but I kept firm boundaries. Or so I thought. Standing in my doorway that morning, my parents looked different somehow. My mother's perfectly styled hair couldn't hide the desperation in her eyes, and my father's usual commanding presence seemed more like barely controlled panic. Bethany and Morrison, my father said, using my full name like he did when I was a child in trouble, you need to listen very carefully. The family business is in serious trouble, and as a Morrison, you have obligations. What are you talking about? I demanded, still reeling from my empty bank account. And how did you access my savings? My mother pulled out a folder thick with documents. We're your parents, dear. We've always had access to what's ours. The way she said ours made my skin crawl. She spread papers across my kitchen table like she owned the place. We've been managing your finances for months now. After all, you wouldn't have that fancy education without us. As I looked through the papers, my hands started shaking. Loan documents with my signature, credit applications I'd never seen, even property deeds with my name on them. But I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was my father's attempting to copy mine. You've been forging my signature, I whispered. Such an ugly word, my mother sighed dramatically. We were simply handling family business. You've been too busy with your city life to help properly. She pulled out another document that made my heart stop. Which is why we've made arrangements with the Hutchinson family. Their son Trevor has been quite taken with your photo. The Hutchinsons owned the largest construction company in 3 counties. Trevor Hutchinson was known for his terrible temper and his father's money. I'd gone to high school with him and spent 4 years avoiding his aggressive advances. What arrangements? I asked, though I already knew the answer. A marriage, of course, my father said matter-of-factly. Mr. Hutchinson has agreed to absorb our debts in exchange for uniting our families. The wedding is in 3 weeks. You're insane, I said, reaching for my phone to call the police. But it was dead. My mother smiled sadly. We've already handled your accounts, dear. Phone, credit cards, even your lease. Your boss was very understanding when we explained you had a family emergency and needed to resign immediately. Mental health issues, we said. He was very sympathetic. I ran to my laptop, but my work access was revoked. My email passwords had been changed. Even my social media accounts were locked. "This is kidnapping," I said. "You can't do this." "Kidnapping?" My father laughed coldly. "We're your parents taking you home. We have power of attorney documents dating back years. You signed them, remember? When you were 18 and needed us to co-sign your student loans?" I remembered signing papers in a rush before leaving for college, trusting them completely. What a fool I'd been. The movers they'd hired began entering my apartment, and I recognized them as my father's old friends from Michigan. "Boys, be careful with her things," my mother called sweetly. "She's coming home where she belongs." I tried to stop them, but my father gripped my arm. "Don't make a scene, Bethany. You know how embarrassing that would be for the family." That's when I noticed Mrs. Patterson from down the hall watching from her doorway. "Help me," I mouthed to her, but she quickly retreated into her apartment. My parents had always been master manipulators, able to charm or intimidate anyone. As they forced me toward their car, my mother kept up a stream of cheerful chatter for anyone watching. "Our daughter has been working too hard. She needs family support right now. Isn't it wonderful when families come together?" The drive from New York to Michigan was the longest 12 hours of my life. My parents had thought of everything. They'd brought my birth certificate, social security card, even old photo albums to show any police who might stop us that I was their daughter going home voluntarily. My father drove while my mother sat in the back with me, her hand firmly on my arm. "You'll thank us one day," she kept saying. "Trevor is quite handsome, and the Hutchinsons have such a lovely estate. You'll have everything you could want." "I want my freedom," I said for the 100th time. "I want my life back." "Your life?" My father glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Your life exists because of us. Everything you have, everything you are, you owe to this family. It's time to pay that debt." We stopped only for gas, and even then my mother accompanied me to the bathroom. At one stop, I tried to slip a note to the cashier, but my mother saw and laughed it off. "She's writing her wedding vows already. So eager to marry her childhood sweetheart." The teenage cashier smiled and nodded, completely fooled by her act. As we crossed into Michigan, my phone suddenly buzzed with a text. My parents had reactivated it but clearly monitored it. The message was from a number I didn't recognize. "Bethany, it's Melanie. They did the same thing to me 5 years ago. I'm so sorry. Be strong." Before I could reply, my father snatched the phone away. "No need for that negativity," he said, deleting the message. The familiar streets of my hometown felt like a prison closing in. Nothing had changed in 11 years except for newer cars and updated storefronts. As we pulled up to my childhood home, I saw cars lining the street. My mother smiled. "We thought you'd want to see everyone right away. The whole town is so excited about your engagement." The house was full of people I'd grown up with, all congratulating me on my upcoming marriage. Mrs. Henderson from the church hugged me tightly. "Your mother told us how Trevor proposed in New York. So romantic." I tried to correct her, but my mother's grip on my elbow tightened painfully. "She's still in shock from the proposal," my mother explained. "It was quite overwhelming." Then I saw him. Trevor Hutchinson stood by the fireplace like he owned the place already. He'd gained weight since high school, and his smile hadn't improved. It was still the same predatory grin that had made me uncomfortable as a teenager. "There's my bride," he announced loudly, crossing the room to pull me into an embrace. I tried to push him away, but he held tight, whispering in my ear, "Your parents explained you might be shy at first. I like a challenge." The party felt like a wake for my freedom. Everyone talked about wedding plans, the merger of two prominent families, how lucky I was. No one noticed or cared that I never smiled, never agreed, never said yes to anything. When I tried to speak up, my mother would interrupt with wedding details or my father would steer the conversation to business matters. Finally, the guests left, and I was alone with my family. That's when Daniel emerged from the kitchen. My brother looked exhausted, older than his 32 years. "Bethany," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. I tried to warn you, but they monitored everything." "You could have found a way," I said, anger and hurt mixing in my chest. He shook his head. "You don't understand yet. They have everything. Every document, every password, every contact. They've been planning this for months." He pulled out his phone and showed me an email. "I've been documenting what they do. The forgeries, the theft, all of it. But I need more evidence before we can go to the real authorities. The local police are all friends with Dad." "Where's Melanie?" I asked. "Upstairs," he said. "Walter finally left her, but not before taking everything. She's been staying here, completely dependent on them now. It's what they do, Bethany. They break us down until we have no choice but to obey." My mother appeared in the doorway. "Daniel, stop filling your sister's head with nonsense. Bethany, your room is ready. We've updated it for a grown woman, of course." She led me upstairs to what used to be my childhood sanctuary. Now it felt like a cell. The windows had new locks, the kind that needed a key from inside. My old computer was gone, replaced with a wedding planning binder. "Your dress fitting is tomorrow at 10, my mother said. The Hutchinsons will join us for lunch after. Trevor is so eager to spend time with you." She paused at the door. "Your father removed the lock from this side, just temporarily. We wouldn't want you to accidentally lock yourself in during this emotional time." The threat was clear. After she left, I examined every inch of the room. My old hiding spots had been found and emptied. The loose floorboard where I'd hidden diary pages, the gap behind the dresser where I'd stashed emergency money, all cleaned out. They'd been preparing for this. A soft knock made me jump. Melanie slipped in, looking like a ghost of the vibrant sister I remembered. Her artist's hands were thin and trembled slightly. "I tried to warn you," she whispered. "When they started talking about you and Trevor months ago, I tried to call, but they always caught me." "What happened with Walter?" I asked. She laughed bitterly. "He got what he wanted. Access to the family business, or what was left of it. When he realized Mom and Dad had drained everything, he filed for divorce and took what little I had left. Now I'm stuck here, just like they planned. Another Morrison woman to auction off when the opportunity arises." "We have to get out," I said. "With what money? What car? What friends?" Melanie's eyes were hollow. "They've isolated us completely. Even if we ran, where would we go? They've destroyed our credit, our reputations. Mom's been telling everyone in town that I had a nervous breakdown, that I'm fragile and need constant supervision. Who would believe me over them?" That night, I lay in my childhood bed planning escape routes. But every scenario hit the same walls: no money, no transportation, no allies. Outside my window, I noticed a car parked across the street with someone watching the house. My parents had thought of everything. The next morning confirmed my worst fears. My car keys were nowhere to be found, my shoes had been replaced with delicate flats that would be useless for running, and my mother cheerfully informed me that she'd be accompanying me everywhere for support during this transitional time. The dress fitting was a nightmare wrapped in white satin. Mrs. Hutchinson dominated the boutique, selecting dress after dress while my mother nodded approvingly. "Trevor likes traditional styles," she announced. "High necks, long sleeves. Modesty is so important." I stood on the platform like a mannequin while they discussed my body like I wasn't there. "She's thin," Mrs. Hutchinson observed critically. "We'll need to make sure she fills out before the wedding. Trevor prefers curves." When I refused to try on the fifth dress, my mother's mask slipped. "Bethany, and you're embarrassing us," she hissed when Mrs. Hutchinson stepped out. "The Hutchinsons are saving our family. You will smile, you will cooperate, and you will be grateful." Her nails dug into my arm hard enough to leave marks. At lunch, Trevor dominated the conversation, talking about our future home, how many children he wanted, and how I would give up my career nonsense to focus on family. I've already spoken to the country club about membership, he told my parents. Bethany will love the ladies' auxiliary. They do such nice charity work, very appropriate for a Hutchinson wife. When I tried to speak, he talked over me. When I disagreed, he laughed like I'd made a joke. By the end of lunch, I understood that I wasn't a person to him but an acquisition, a prize he'd won through business negotiations. As we left the restaurant, he cornered me by the coat check. Your parents warned me you might be difficult at first, he said, pressing too close. I don't mind. Breaking spirited fillies is a specialty of mine. His hand on my waist made me want to vomit. Back home, I found Daniel in the garage sorting through old boxes. Finding anything useful? I asked. He looked around nervously before pulling out a manila envelope. Dad's been sloppy. Look at this. Inside were bank statements, but not just for the family business. Multiple accounts, transfers to offshore holdings, and massive cash withdrawals. The hardware store hasn't been profitable in years, he explained. But money keeps flowing through it. I think they're laundering money. For who? I asked, though I suspected the answer. The Hutchinsons. Maybe others. I've been tracking patterns for months. The marriage isn't just about debt. It's about keeping you silent, making you complicit. Once you're married to Trevor, you can't testify against him or his family. A door slammed, and we quickly hid the papers. My father appeared, suspicious. What are you two doing out here? I was showing Bethany the old Christmas decorations, Daniel lied smoothly. She wanted something traditional for the wedding decor. My father studied us before nodding. Good. Family traditions are important. Bethany, your mother needs you inside. Something about flower arrangements. That evening, my childhood friend Emma Hutchinson called the house. Trevor's younger sister had always been different from her family, quieter, kinder. My mother handed me the phone with a warning look. Hi, Bethany, Emma's voice was carefully neutral. I wanted to welcome you to the family properly. Could we have lunch tomorrow? Just us girls? I glanced at my mother, who nodded approvingly. That sounds nice, I managed. Wonderful. I'll pick you up at noon. We have so much to discuss about the wedding. Something in her tone made me pay attention. Was that emphasis on discuss deliberate? That night, I tried to escape. I waited until 3 a.m., then crept downstairs in my bare feet. But the alarm system had been updated. The moment I touched the door handle, lights flooded the house and a siren wailed. My father appeared with Sheriff Watson, who lived next door. Sleepwalking, my father explained calmly. The stress of wedding planning. We've been concerned about her mental state. The sheriff nodded sympathetically. Wedding jitters. My daughter was the same way. Good thing you have that new system, Robert. Can't be too careful. After he left, my father's genial mask dropped. Try that again, and we'll have you committed for evaluation. Dr. Brennan at the county hospital is very understanding about family situations. A 72-hour hold can become much longer with the right documentation. The threat was clear. They'd paint me as unstable, use it to control me completely. I was led back to my room, where new bars had somehow appeared on the windows during the day. For your safety, my mother explained. We can't have you hurting yourself accidentally. The next morning brought Aunt Catherine, my mother's older sister who I hadn't seen in 15 years. She swept into the house like she owned it, all designer clothes and expensive perfume. Gloria, darling, she air-kissed my mother. I heard about Bethany's engagement. How wonderful. My mother's smile was strained. She and Catherine had been estranged for years over some family dispute. Catherine. I didn't know you were in town. Oh, I couldn't miss my niece's wedding planning. Besides, I thought Bethany might need some womanly guidance. Marriage is such a big step. She turned to me with sharp eyes. You look tired, dear. Are you sleeping well? There was something in her gaze that made me straighten. Not really, I admitted. Wedding stress, my mother interjected quickly. Very normal. Indeed, Catherine agreed. Perhaps Bethany could visit me at my hotel this afternoon? We could have tea, discuss marriage. Woman to woman. My mother couldn't refuse without seeming unreasonable. I suppose, if Emma Hutchinson doesn't mind rescheduling. Oh, I already called Emma, Catherine smiled. She was very understanding. Family comes first, after all. As we drove away in Catherine's rental car, I watched my prison disappear in the mirror. Aunt Catherine, I need help. They're forcing me to marry Trevor Hutchinson. They've stolen my money, forged documents. I know, she said quietly. The same thing happened to me 30 years ago. Your grandparents tried to marry me off to settle their debts. I ran, but it cost me everything. My family, my inheritance, my home. She glanced at me. I've been watching your parents for years, waiting for them to repeat the pattern. When I heard about your engagement, I knew it was time to act. My heart soared. Finally, an ally. Can you help me get away? I need to know everything first. Every document they've forged, every crime they've committed. Build a case so airtight that no small-town connections can break it. She pulled into a hotel parking lot. But we have to be careful. Your parents are more dangerous than you know. In Catherine's hotel suite, I poured out everything. The forged signatures, the stolen money, the forced engagement. She took notes, asking detailed questions about dates and amounts. Your brother Daniel has been sending me information for months, she revealed. But I needed to hear it from you directly. She pulled out a laptop. Let me show you what I've discovered. The screen filled with documents, photographs, and financial records going back decades. Your parents have been running this scheme since before you were born. The hardware store is a front. They launder money for criminal organizations across 3 states. The Hutchinsons are just the latest partners. How do you know all this? I asked. Because I've spent 30 years documenting everything, waiting for the right moment to bring them down. Her smile was sharp. They destroyed my life, but they also taught me patience. She showed me photographs of my parents with known criminals, bank records showing impossible profits for a failing hardware store, even security footage of late-night meetings. But here's what will interest you most, she said, pulling up medical records. Your mother has been claiming you as a disabled dependent for the past 5 years, collecting benefits in your name. Your father has opened 6 credit cards using your social security number. They've taken loans against properties they bought in your name without your knowledge. This is insane, I breathed. How did they get away with it? Small-town corruption. Sheriff Watson gets a cut. Judge Morrison, your father's cousin, handles any legal issues. Dr. Brennan at the hospital provides whatever medical documentation they need. It's a tight network, but it has one weakness. She leaned forward. They've gotten greedy and sloppy. And Trevor Hutchinson is their biggest mistake yet. What do you mean? Trevor isn't just violent and entitled. He's under federal investigation for sex trafficking. The FBI has been building a case for 2 years. Your parents either don't know or don't care. They're so desperate to clear their debts that they're literally selling you to a predator. My phone rang. It was my mother, furious. Where are you? You were supposed to be back an hour ago. I'm with Aunt Catherine, I said carefully. We're having a lovely tea. Bring her back immediately, my mother snapped at Catherine. Or I'll send the police. Catherine took the phone. Gloria, dear, I'm bringing your daughter to the best wedding dress designer in the state. Surely you want Bethany to look perfect for the Hutchinsons? We'll be back by dinner. She hung up before my mother could protest. That buys us a few hours. Now, let's talk about your brother's evidence. She called Daniel, putting him on speaker. I'm at the house, he said quietly. Dad's in the office. I can get to the safe if you keep them busy. What's in the safe? I asked. The real books. The ones they don't show the IRS. And something else, Bethany. I saw adoption papers with your name, but not your original adoption papers. These were dated last month. Adoption papers? I was confused. But I'm not adopted. No, Daniel said grimly. But they're planning to adopt Trevor's future children with you. The papers already list you as an unfit mother due to mental illness. They're planning to take your kids before you even have them. The full horror hit me. This wasn't just about marriage or money. They were planning to use me as a broodmare, then take my children to raise as new victims. I'm going to be sick, I said. Get angry instead, Catherine advised. Daniel, photograph everything. We need evidence before they realize what we know. We drove to a wedding dress shop to maintain our cover story. While Catherine distracted the staff with elaborate requests, I called Emma Hutchinson. I need to see you, I said urgently. Without Trevor knowing. Meet me at the old mill pond tonight at 10, she said quickly. Come alone. I have something you need to see. The afternoon passed in a blur of white dresses and false smiles. Catherine played the doting aunt perfectly, all while slipping me notes about escape plans and FBI contacts. When we finally returned to my parents' house, my mother was waiting on the porch. Did you find anything suitable? She asked coldly. Several options, Catherine replied smoothly. Though I think Bethany needs more time to decide. Such an important choice shouldn't be rushed. The wedding is in 2 weeks, my mother snapped. Everything is already arranged. Then perhaps I should stay in town to help, Catherine offered. Families should support each other during these milestone moments. My mother's jaw tightened, but she couldn't refuse without raising suspicions. How thoughtful. You can stay in the guest room. That night, I slipped out through the basement window Daniel had quietly unlocked. The walk to the mill pond felt endless, every shadow potentially hiding one of my father's spies. Emma was waiting, pacing nervously. I shouldn't be here, she said immediately. But I can't let this happen to another woman. What do you mean? She pulled out her phone and showed me photos. Crime scene tape, police reports, newspaper clippings. 3 women in the past 10 years. All engaged or married to Trevor. 1 died in a car accident. 1 overdosed. 1 simply disappeared. The police never investigated properly because my father owns them. You're saying Trevor is a killer? I'm saying women who resist him don't survive. Your parents have to know. Everyone knows. But the money is too good, the connection's too valuable. She grabbed my hands. I've been documenting everything, working with someone on the outside. There's going to be a raid, but not for 2 weeks. You need to survive until then. Why are you helping me? Her laugh was bitter. Because I've been where you are. My parents sold me too, just to a different kind of buyer. A business marriage to secure a merger. My husband is 60 years old and treats me like property. I can't save myself yet, but maybe I can save you. She handed me a burner phone. Hide this. When the raid happens, call the number programmed in. It's a federal agent. He'll get you to safety. She looked around nervously. I have to go. Trevor's looking for me. Be careful, Bethany. Play along just a little longer. Walking back, I felt the weight of everyone's secrets. My parents' criminal empire, the Hutchinsons' murders, the town's complicity. Everyone was guilty, and I was trapped in the middle of it all. As I climbed back through the basement window, I found Melanie waiting. Where were you? She whispered. Getting help, I said. Real help this time. Her eyes filled with tears. Is it true? Can we really get out? We have to, I said. All of us. Even if it means burning everything down. The next morning brought a new level of hell. Family lawyer Coleman arrived with a briefcase full of documents. Just some formalities, he said with his practiced smile. Prenuptial agreements, standard stuff. But as I read through them, my blood ran cold. This wasn't just a prenup. It was complete financial enslavement. Everything I owned, earned, or inherited would become Hutchinson property. Any children would be under Trevor's sole custody. If I tried to divorce, I would owe them $5 million. I won't sign this, I said. Coleman chuckled. Of course you will. Your parents have already agreed to the terms. See? He showed me signature pages with my name already on them. My father's forgery had gotten better. These are just copies for your records. That's fraud, I protested. That's a serious accusation. Coleman's voice turned cold. Your parents mentioned you've been having some mental health challenges. Paranoia, delusions of persecution. Such a shame when stress affects young women this way. He pulled out another document. In fact, they've asked me to file for a conservatorship. Just temporary, of course. Until after the wedding when you're more stable. Catherine walked in at that moment, and Coleman's expression shifted. Mrs. Fitzgerald. I didn't know you were in town. Mr. Coleman, she nodded coolly. Still facilitating human trafficking, I see. His face flushed. I should sue you for slander. Please do, she smiled. I'd love to discuss your activities in open court. After he left, Catherine examined the documents. They're accelerating the timeline. We need to move faster. But when she tried to call her FBI contact, her phone was dead. So was mine. The house phone had no dial tone. They've cut us off, she said grimly. My father appeared in the doorway. Catherine, I think it's time you left town. Family visits can be so stressful during wedding planning. I'm not going anywhere, she replied. Oh, but you are. He held up his phone showing security footage. Breaking into my office safe is still a crime, even for family. Sheriff Watson is on his way. You can leave voluntarily, or in handcuffs. Catherine's face went pale. You set me up. Did you really think I didn't know about your little investigation? He laughed. I've been feeding you false information for years. Those criminals in the photos? Paid actors. The financial records? Forgeries to discredit you if you ever went public. Who's going to believe the crazy sister who's been stalking her family for 30 years? The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Our strongest ally had been played from the beginning. Catherine looked at me with devastated eyes. I'm so sorry, Bethany. I thought I was helping. You were helping, my father said mockingly. Helping me identify every threat to our family business. Now get out before I have you arrested. And if you contact Bethany again, I'll have you charged with harassment and stalking. Catherine had no choice but to leave. As her car disappeared, my last hope went with it. My mother appeared, shaking her head sadly. Poor Catherine. She never recovered from her breakdown all those years ago. These conspiracy theories of hers get more elaborate each time. That night, dinner was a celebration of my defeat. The Hutchinsons joined us, with Trevor sitting possessively close. I've arranged for us to fly to Vegas tomorrow, he announced. Why wait 2 weeks? We can be married by sunset. That's rather sudden, my mother said, though she didn't look surprised. Mr. Hutchinson smiled coldly. Given Bethany's recent behavior, we think it's best not to delay. Young women can be so unpredictable. Marriage will settle her down. What about the big wedding? Melanie asked desperately. All the planning? We can have a reception later, Trevor dismissed. What matters is making it legal. Right, darling? He squeezed my hand hard enough to hurt. I looked around the table at these people who were supposed to protect me. My parents counting their money, the Hutchinsons planning their acquisition, everyone complicit in selling me like livestock. Even Daniel wouldn't meet my eyes. That's when I noticed the new watch on his wrist, expensive, flashy. They'd bought him too. I need some air, I said. I'll come with you. Trevor started to rise. Let her go, his father said. Where can she run? Besides, she needs to say goodbye to this life. Tomorrow, everything changes. I walked outside, my mind racing. The burner phone Emma gave me was hidden in the garden shed, but when I retrieved it, the screen was cracked, water damage from the automatic sprinklers. Even that lifeline was gone. I sat on my childhood swing, watching the sun set on my last day of semi-freedom. Melanie found me there an hour later. I'm sorry, she whispered. I wanted to help, but Walter took everything in the divorce. I have nothing left to fight with. It's okay, I lied. We all do what we have to survive. Do we? She pulled out a pill bottle. Sometimes I think about taking all of these at once. It would be easier than watching them destroy you like they destroyed me. I took the bottle from her. Don't talk like that. We'll find another way. There is no other way. Her voice broke. Don't you see? They've won. They always win. Tomorrow you'll marry Trevor, and he'll do to you what Walter did to me, except worse. And our parents will count their money while you scream. She ran back to the house sobbing. I pocketed the pills, a terrible plan forming. If I couldn't escape, maybe I could make myself too damaged to be valuable. But even as I thought it, I knew my parents would find a way to profit from that too. The house was quiet when I returned. Trevor had left with his parents, and mine were in the study planning tomorrow's travel. I found Daniel in his room, packing. Going somewhere? I asked. He couldn't look at me. Dad's sending me to manage the new branch in Chicago. A promotion. A bribe, I corrected. How much did it cost? Your silence about their crimes? You don't understand, he said desperately. I tried to help. I gave Catherine everything. But it wasn't enough. And now they're threatening to destroy my medical school records, say I cheated. I'll never be a doctor if I don't cooperate. So you're abandoning me. I'm surviving, he said. Just like you would in my place. Maybe he was right. Maybe survival was all any of us could manage against our parents' machine. I went to my room and found my wedding dress hanging on the door, pure white mocking everything it was supposed to represent. Tomorrow I would put it on and sign my life away to a man who collected wives like trophies. Unless I found the courage to do something desperate. 4 a.m. In 3 hours, we would leave for the airport. I sat in my bathroom with Melanie's pills, counting them. Enough to cause serious illness, maybe coma, but probably not death. My parents would likely have me stomach pumped and then use the suicide attempt as evidence of mental illness. But what else could I do? A soft knock interrupted my spiral. I opened the door to find Emma Hutchinson in dark clothes, finger to her lips. Get dressed, she whispered urgently. Everything's changed. The raid is happening now. What? You said 2 weeks. My contact moved it up after Catherine's evidence arrived. Even the fake stuff your dad created had enough real crimes mixed in. Also. She hesitated. Trevor attacked another woman last night. She's in the hospital. The FBI can't wait anymore. I threw on clothes, heart pounding. What about my family? Federal agents are already in position. When the sun comes up, they're moving in. But my handler wants you out first. You're a witness, not a suspect, unless you're married to Trevor. Then spousal privilege complicates everything. We crept downstairs, but the front door alarm was still active. Emma pulled out a device and attached it to the keypad. My boyfriend's FBI, she explained. He taught me a few tricks. The light turned green silently. We were almost to her car when headlights flooded the driveway. Trevor's truck screeched to a halt, and he jumped out, drunk and furious. Emma? What are you doing here? His eyes found me. And with my bride? She's sick, Trevor, Emma said quickly. Food poisoning. I was taking her to the hospital. He stalked toward us. Liar. You're trying to steal what's mine. He grabbed my arm brutally. Get in the truck. We're getting married right now. Vegas can wait. Let her go, Emma stepped between us. It's over, Trevor. The FBI knows everything. His face contorted with rage. You bitch. You sold out your own family? He backhanded Emma, sending her sprawling. I'll deal with you later. He started dragging me toward his truck. That's when I remembered the pills in my pocket. Not to take them, but as a weapon. I threw the bottle at his face, catching him in the eye. He released me with a howl of pain. Run! Emma gasped, struggling to her feet. We ran for her car, but Trevor recovered quickly, chasing us with drunken determination. Emma fumbled with her keys, finally getting the engine started just as Trevor reached us. He punched the window, leaving bloody knuckles prints on the glass as we peeled out. He's following, I said, watching his truck fishtail behind us. Emma grabbed her phone, hitting speed dial. It's blown. Trevor caught us. We're heading north on Route 49, need backup now. Trevor rammed us from behind, sending our car skidding. Emma fought for control, but he hit us again. We spun off the road into a field, the car stalling. Trevor's truck blocked our escape. He got out with a tire iron, approaching slowly. You're going to pay for this, Emma. Both of you. That's when the helicopters appeared, spotlights turning night into day. Federal agents swarmed from hidden positions, weapons drawn. FBI. Drop the weapon. Trevor spun, confused, as agents surrounded him. In the distance, I could see more vehicles converging on my parents' house and the Hutchinson estate. Emma grabbed my hand. It's over. We did it. An agent approached us, badge out. Ms. Morrison? I'm Agent Chen. We need to get you somewhere safe while we process the scene. My sister, I said urgently. Melanie's still in the house, and she's suicidal. Please help her. He radioed immediately, and I heard confirmation that agents were securing all family members. As they led Trevor away in handcuffs, he screamed threats and obscenities. This isn't over. You're still mine. Your parents sold you to me. Actually, Agent Chen said, human trafficking charges tend to invalidate those kinds of contracts. At the FBI field office, I spent hours giving statements. Emma was in another room doing the same. Agent Chen showed me evidence they'd collected. Your Aunt Catherine's information, combined with what Emma and her boyfriend compiled, gave us enough for warrants. But what we found exceeded expectations. The conference room table filled with documents. Your parents weren't just laundering money. They were running a trafficking ring, selling young women from the county into forced marriages or worse. You weren't their first victim, just their most profitable. How many? I asked, sick to my stomach. At least 12 that we've identified so far. Some dating back 20 years. He showed me photos of young women, all looking scared and defeated. Your sister Melanie was one. Her husband Walter was part of the ring. The divorce was staged to bring her back under your parents' control for resale. Resale? The word made me want to vomit. To the highest bidder. Your parents were shopping her to 3 different men, all with histories of domestic violence. He paused. She's safe now. Psychiatric hold at the hospital, but she'll recover. And Daniel? Chen's expression darkened. Your brother was more involved than he let on. He wasn't just documenting crimes, he was participating. The Chicago branch he mentioned? It's a front for expanding the operation. He's been arrested. The betrayal hurt worse than everything else. Daniel hadn't been trying to help. He'd been earning his place in the family business. Another agent entered with updates. Morrison and Hutchinson are both talking, trying to blame each other. The sheriff, judge, and doctor have all been arrested. The whole network is collapsing. What happens now? I asked. Now we build the cases. You'll need protection until the trials are over. Witness security if necessary. He studied me. You're handling this remarkably well. I'm too tired to fall apart, I admitted. Maybe tomorrow it'll hit me. Emma appeared with her handler, Agent David Park, who I realized was also her boyfriend. Thank you, I told her. You risked everything. We saved each other, she corrected. I couldn't have done it without you being brave enough to resist. Dawn was breaking as they drove me to a safe house. The news was already breaking. Major human trafficking ring busted in small-town Michigan. My phone, returned by the FBI, buzzed with messages from New York friends who'd seen my name in the articles. From the safe house window, I watched normal people starting their days. Free people who chose where to go, who to marry, how to live. For the first time in weeks, I was one of them again. The house of cards had fallen, and I was still standing. The trials took 18 months. I testified in 4 different cases, watching my parents' empire crumble piece by piece. My father got 25 years for racketeering, money laundering, and human trafficking. My mother, still playing the victim, received 20 years. She cried about how her children had betrayed her, how everything she did was for family. The judge wasn't moved. Trevor Hutchinson got life without parole. The woman he attacked that final night survived but would need years of surgery. 2 bodies were found on Hutchinson property, confirming Emma's fears about his previous fiancés. Mr. Hutchinson died of a heart attack during his trial. Mrs. Hutchinson pleaded guilty and got 15 years. Daniel shocked everyone by becoming the prosecution's star witness. In exchange for a reduced sentence of 8 years, he provided detailed records of every crime. I wanted to be a doctor to help people, he said during his testimony. Somewhere along the way, I became just like them. He looked at me across the courtroom. I'm sorry, Bethany. Sorry I was too weak to be the brother you deserved. Sheriff Watson, Judge Morrison, Dr. Brennan, Lawyer Coleman, and a dozen others all fell like dominoes. The entire power structure of our town collapsed. Some fled, some made deals, but most went to prison. The town itself struggled to recover from the shame of harboring such evil for so long. Emma divorced her elderly husband and used her inheritance to start a foundation helping trafficking survivors. We became close friends, bonded by trauma but determined to build something better. We can't change what happened, she said. But we can make sure it doesn't happen to others. Melanie's recovery was the hardest to watch. Months of therapy, medication adjustments, and setbacks. But slowly, she began to heal. I want to paint again, she told me one day. Not for anyone else, just for me. Her first painting was dark, abstract paint on canvas. Her 50th was a sunrise. The FBI helped me reclaim my stolen money and identity. My old firm in New York offered my job back, but I wasn't the same person who'd left. Instead, I started my own financial consulting company specializing in helping fraud victims rebuild their lives. Morrison Financial Recovery felt like reclaiming my name for good instead of evil. Catherine and I grew close during the trials. I'm sorry they used me against you, she said. I thought I was so clever, gathering evidence for decades. Your father played me perfectly. He played us all, I reminded her. But in the end, the truth came out. 3 years after that nightmare morning when my parents invaded my apartment, I stood in a real courthouse for a different reason. The adoption papers were official. Melanie's daughter Faith, born during her recovery, would have my last name and a chance at a normal life. Melanie smiled through tears. She'll never know that kind of family pain. We'll make sure of it. My business grew, helping dozens then hundreds of financial abuse survivors. I hired other survivors, creating a network of support. We couldn't erase our pasts, but we could build futures. Emma often spoke at our workshops, sharing her story to help others recognize the signs. Letters from prison came occasionally. My father's were full of rage and blame. My mother's dripped with manipulation and false remorse. I read them to my therapist, then shredded them. They had no power over me anymore. Daniel wrote too, genuinely remorseful. He was getting his degree in prison, planning to work with trafficking survivors after release. Maybe someday I'd be ready to forgive him. Not today, but maybe someday. 5 years after the arrests, I returned to my hometown for the first time. The hardware store was a community center now, the Hutchinson estate a shelter for abused women. The town had voted to acknowledge its dark past and work toward redemption. Not everyone could be saved, but some were trying. I stood in my childhood bedroom, now part of a museum documenting the trafficking ring. Placards explained how predators operated in plain sight, how communities enabled abuse through silence. School groups toured regularly, learning to recognize warning signs. My prison of a room had become a classroom. "You okay?" Emma asked, joining me. "Yeah," I said, meaning it. "It's just strange. This room represented everything I feared, and now it's helping protect others." "That's what we do," she said. "Transform trauma into purpose." The last stop was the cemetery. Not to visit my parents, they were still alive in their cells. But for the women who hadn't survived, whose names we'd learned during the investigation. 12 headstones in a row, finally properly marked. Emma and I left flowers, promises that they weren't forgotten. Flying back to New York, I thought about family. Not the one that tried to destroy me, but the one I'd chosen. Emma, Melanie, Faith, my employees, the survivors we helped. Real family protected each other instead of profiting from pain. Real family lifted you up instead of selling you out. My phone buzzed with a text from a new client, another woman whose family had stolen her identity and freedom. "I don't know where to start," she wrote. "They took everything." "You start by surviving," I replied. "Then you fight back. You're not alone." Because that's what real family does. We find each other in the darkness and light the way out. My parents thought they were teaching me about family obligation and duty. They were right, just not how they intended. I learned that my obligation was to break the cycle, and my duty was to help others do the same. The Morrison family business continues, just not the one my parents built on crime and cruelty. Mine is built on truth, justice, and the radical idea that family should be a source of strength, not suffering. It's less profitable than trafficking, but infinitely more valuable. My name is Bethany Morrison. I'm 34 years old. I survived my family, and now I help others survive theirs. This is my story, my truth, my victory. And it's just the beginning. What an incredible journey of survival and triumph. If you or someone you know has experienced family financial abuse or coercion, you're not alone. Share this story with anyone who needs to hear that escape is possible. What would you have done in Bethany's situation? Leave a comment below with your thoughts. If this story touched you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories of courage and justice. Remember, real family protects and supports you. Thank you for watching, and may you always have the strength to stand up for your freedom.